Yo, 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 what's up? Good morning, good evening, good night, good afternoon, whatever time you're listening in, wherever you're listening from. Shout out to my Spotify listenership, Apple and Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and YouTube if you're watching in. Thanks for giving me a reason to do my hair. Coming live from my voice to your phone, headphones, TV, or car stereo. Your attention could have been anywhere in the world, but it's here right now. Take a moment to be present and recognize that it is now, right now. Whether your right now is working, exercising, running, laying down, cleaning, driving, flying, just be grateful we're alive. Failure can be frightening. However, as Winston Churchill reminds us, success is all about going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. This is I Will Not Lose podcast, where we set out to prove everything is learned from failure. We must persevere and recognize it as one step closer to success. I'm your host, Tony Ortiz. We're going to jump right in. First and foremost, happy Memorial Day to my first response listeners. We're dropping on Memorial Day. Happy belated Memorial Day if you're tuning in later in the week. And if you're tuning in well into the future, don't worry, the message is still relevant. So, I Will Not Lose podcast. Just the inspiration for this podcast drives a lot and aligns with military disciplines. So I thought it would be interesting, although myself am not a veteran or I've done no military service. I come from a family with a lot of military service. My father's a Marine. My uncle is not military, but police, state trooper. My cousin is active Marine and Army. So it runs in my family. A lot of the discipline and things like that have been pushed down to me. I myself am a bit of a free thinker. The military wasn't a path for me, but I still think that the values can be applied to everyday life. So with this episode, we're going to go and just kind of talk about some military disciplines, some things that are learned through military training and how that can adapt to civilian life. So if you're out barbecuing, having time with family, spending time eating good food, listening to music, just know those freedoms are protected by people who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for our country to be able to continue to do this. Memorial Day is absolutely significant. A lot of people think of it as the start of summer, but for many people, it represents people who have given their lives in military service in one way or another in many of the different branches. So in order to kind of pay homage and speak about not only the freedoms they help us protect, but the values that the military kind of instills and how that can be applied to civilian life. So believe that there are people who would love to take these freedoms from us. Just our luxury, the things that we have in the first world, in our Western society, they can be taken for granted, but just know that they come at a price. Our military protects our assets. So it is one thing, no matter, this is not my opinion or to make you sway or feel one way or the other. People have love for our government. People have hate for our government, but that's not what this platform is about. We're going to be focusing on what I can apply to my civilian life and what I think you can adapt to yours. So without getting started, we're going to talk about adapting under pressure, perseverance, the importance of teamwork and leadership, discipline and time management, as well as handling setbacks and failures. All things that come from a military mindset that can be adapted. So when you're talking about adapting under pressure, the ability to make quick decisions, quick and finite decisions, and not be stuck with, analysis paralysis, being able to, you're going to do everything you can to account for everything that's going to happen, but things are going to, shit happens, things fall out of place. So being able to adapt to that, being able to make way of a business crisis, or if you're in a public speaking event, if you've ever had to give a presentation and you go to speak into the mic and there's problems with the mic, there's some sort of feedback, or you're not hearing anybody at all. And while they're messing around with wires, trying to figure out what to do, seasoned speaker is going to just say, hey, can you guys hear me? And if enough people say, yes, I can hear, then they're just going to project their voice and they're going to work without the microphone until it gets set up. And usually by the time the mic is set up and they run it to the speaker, they say, I don't need it anyway, and they continue to go on. So being able to adapt under the pressure of public speaking, or even I know when I've put on live show presentations, we've put on live presentations where you have multiple cameras and audio inputs, and you test everything and you run it right beforehand, but all of a sudden you go live and you can't hear one of the speakers and you have to adapt. You have to figure out, okay, is there an additional mic that maybe one of the producers is using, and I can just give them the headset real quick and we'll figure it out on the other end and work on fixing the headset for somebody who's doing audio monitoring rather than somebody who's actually speaking. There's all sorts of things that under pressure you have to just adapt quickly. Big shout out to DJ Jamal Knight. I believe he was on DJ Focus's podcast telling the story of DJing an event in the summer, and he was worried about his MacBook overheating. So he put like a bus pan of ice with napkins over top and was trying to keep the laptop cool the whole time and still run the set. And like, my palms are literally sweating as I'm hearing him tell this story. Pretty sure I saw DJ Menace put something about having to keep laptops cool. So whenever you're in any sort of live performance, or you're in any sort of situation where you're entertaining and there's a lot of technical things that can go wrong, improvisation is one of the best skills that you can have. And they'll teach you that, in combat. And now one thing I want to kind of side note, all of the things that they teach you in the military are really to keep you alive, whether it's listening to commands, whether it's following orders, whether you're just improvising or using a tool that you don't have or making a tool. These are all things that keep you alive. So it's a pretty interesting thing, even down to the way they have the communication so that you don't mistake something over a walkie-talkie or something. But yeah, all sorts of ways to adapt to pressure. If you've ever had to give a presentation with no mic, if you've ever tried to set up for a video shoot and you account for everything, you try to make sure everything's charged, but some little adapter piece that connects the third light might be missing. And now you have to remember that I usually keep duct tape whenever I'm shooting a video shoot, whether or not you're just going to gaff some wires. I mean, you can have gaff tape, but the duct tape comes in handy if you need to prop a camera or something. I mean, you don't want to account for having to do something makeshift, but it's going to happen no matter what area. I mean, I could go on and on for ways that you have to adapt under pressure, but I think that's a very big one. Perseverance, tenacity, the will to keep going. Things are going to get tough, regardless of whether that's completing a mission or whether that's just getting to your job on time. Things like traffic occur. I hate to compare combat to traffic, but in your everyday life, you're going to deal with things that make you want to quit, that make you want to not continue to keep going. So whether you're working on a difficult project, if you're job hunting, I know post-corona, there was a lot of people who were really struggling with job hunting. It seems like every place is hiring, but yet nobody's hiring, or you can't get past an interview. So it was difficult. There's still I know people in the job market. So wish perseverance on them. I wish perseverance for them to be able to continue. Even if you're just pushing through a tough workout, if you're working on a degree, a postgraduate degree, or even an undergraduate degree, hell, if you're finishing high school, there's perseverance that's involved in academia as well. And if you're an entrepreneur, big shout out. You already know this. You have to persevere. You're only employed until your next job. I mean, even if you have contracts that last a year or 2 years, it's not guaranteed forever. So no matter what kind of an entrepreneur you are, whether you're selling services or you're selling goods, there's going to be setbacks. There's going to be things that happen. So adopting a mindset of perseverance is going to help you no matter what you're trying to accomplish. Big one in the military is teamwork. Teamwork and leadership. You know, whether you're a part of a team or whether you're leading a team, there's so many things that this can be applied to in everyday life. I mean, even if you're just, let's say for Memorial Day, you're coordinating a barbecue, and it's not just one person that puts together all the food, brings all the gifts, brings all the drinks, plans the menu. You know, I was just at a barbecue yesterday. Big shout out to Myra, and we were out there with Bob and Layla. It was a great barbecue. There was multiple people taking turns on the grill. There was somebody inside cooking up a steak. Stephen cooked one of the best steaks that I had with an amazing pan sauce. And it was like, you know, somebody had put beer inside of a chicken and put the chicken on the grill to make a beer can chicken. And it was just all sorts of teamwork in preparing the feast, preparing everything, delegating the responsibilities, knowing who's bringing what so that you can put everything together, sharing the responsibilities. I mean, even if you're volunteering for a community picnic or a community event, you know what your job is and what you bring to the table, and you stick to that job and see how that affects the whole team. It's good to be cross-trained in some of the skills that your coworkers or your co-volunteers or co-family members, I don't even think that's a word, co-family members, your family members, you know, you're going to have to communicate with them. You're going to have to provide some sort of what I was saying about being cross-trained in their skills, you know, maybe you can cook as well as make a drink. And even though that one person is the bartender and they're the person that's known to make the best margaritas for the drink, maybe somebody else knows the recipe. So if that person's busy with the kids or the dogs, somebody else can step in and take care of it. You know, these are things that come from military and being able to be cross-trained in different skills that can also be applied to civilian life. So if you've ever played sports, even for recreation, I mean, I'm trying to think, I've been recently playing a ton of disc golf with Brian and some friends, but disc golf is not so much, I mean, you can play teams and you definitely have to collaborate with a team member, but just knowing, I mean, I've played volleyball, been a wrestler, even though that's an individual sport, you still need to know how you making weight affects somebody else. If I miss weight, then my partner, the person who's a bit lighter than me is going to have to wrestle a weight up just because I didn't make weight. So you're always bringing something to a table. You know, even if you're an entrepreneur or a solopreneur, like you'd call it, like myself, you know, I run a creative business, but there's contracts, there's other people at agencies that I have to work with in order to get a job done. So knowing how I fit into the main wheel, knowing what my mission is per se, is a great skill to have. Another skill, discipline and time management. So the military places great emphasis on the efficient use of time. Not only do they have their own set of, it's called military time, where it runs through the 24 hours in a day rather than going 12 hours and resetting. But you need to know where you need to be, when you need to be there. You have just enough time to get done what you need to get done. And this is what it can feel like if you're running a business or you're in a fast-paced career. You have to prioritize your tasks, you know. In the high-paying jobs, you don't get to just be told what to do. You know, you may have a list of things to do, but you're not given it every day or every hour. you're given, okay, here's what you have to get done for this month or this week, and you have to make the best use of your time to get it done. So one of the tools I use for productivity all the time is listing. I write everything down. If I'm going to talk about it on the podcast, if I'm going to accomplish it, even if there's a different load of laundry or some extra stuff like blankets I want to get done, I write it down. And I prioritize every Sunday in the beginning of every day and look at what are my tasks for the week, what's the most urgent, what's the most important, because they're two different things. Something can be due on a Monday that's not as important as what's due on a Thursday. But if you got to get it done in time to get it done, then you have to start the more important thing on Tuesday after the other thing is done. So being able to just purge that list and cross something off the list and know that you got it done is a great feeling. And that little dopamine response of crossing something off the list definitely boosts productivity. I don't know the exact stat, but it definitely increases the chance of getting something done by you writing it down. So anything you could do for time management, if you have an academic schedule, if you have different classes, once you get out of high school, assignments are really kind of open-ended and you have multiple different classes that things are due on. So if you don't manage your time and you wait till the last moment till everything's due, you're not going to do as well in academia as you should. Discipline and time management in dieting and personal fitness. I mean, anybody who's lifted weights on any sort of thing knows you have to track your progress. You have to have an idea of what you're going to lift that day. You have to track what you lifted, what you ate. If you're into bodybuilding, it's an insane regimen. I mean, one of the craziest sports that I didn't even realize, but physique, not necessarily bodybuilding, but overall physique competitions. People are dieting and training for months in order to go into that competition. So I don't know. I pride myself on great time management, and it's funny. I kind of take it a little too far. Sometimes in personal conversations, I'm using the phone like a military walkie-talkie. It's like, get this across real quick and okay, we got everything. We're good. Okay. How's the weather? I guess. Sometimes communicating just for communication's sake, I have to remind myself, this is something that people do socially, and it's not always bad to wonder how people perceive the weather, just hearing whether or not they think it's too hot or whether they think it's beautiful. That could be something important, but I do digress. Military training involves learning from mistakes and setbacks. So how to handle failure and setbacks. This podcast is a weekly reminder to persevere and continue to recognize it as one step closer to success. So we could dedicate a whole podcast and a whole episode just to how to handle different setbacks. But there's so many, we're going to keep it brief and just continue to break them down into episodes and continue to keep the mindset of perseverance. But you're going to have career obstacles. You might get passed up for a promotion. You might think that you've done everything and you're ready to go. And then you go into your interview and something just doesn't go wrong, or somebody else has more seniority than you and they get the job. Now you have to wait another 2 years, and you might have had your whole life planned out on how this new career and this new position was going to change things. You're going to have financial setbacks. Things happen. There's parking tickets add up. Things just happen. You may have a medical bill or a copay that's due that you didn't plan on paying, or depending on your insurance. Unfortunately, America doesn't have the greatest healthcare system where if you're sick, you can just get treated. It's a lot more complicated than that. You could be fully insured and still not be treated. So that brings me to my next thing in my list, like health issues. Nobody plans for getting sick or being told, hey, we need to run a biopsy because we think this might be cancerous. Nobody plans for things like this to happen. And it's not necessarily a failure, but it could definitely be a setback. And having a perseverance mindset and saying, okay, this is something that I'm going to continue to push forward with. You can get terrible news, but still, there's people that get even terminal diagnoses and they still live the rest of their life happy or free. And there's nothing wrong with that. You have to have a mindset of persevering through relationship struggles, academic challenges, career obstacles. One of my favorite quotes is, everybody's going through something that nobody knows, especially in a world with social media. You have people who are presenting the absolute best versions of themselves. They posted that they got that new car. They didn't mention what kind of debt that put them in, or if they're going to be paying it off for the next 12 years. You don't know what people are going through. So they may just be posting, hey, I'm having a great day. And inside, they know they just need to really reach out and connect with somebody, and somebody needs to send them some positivity. And you may just be thinking, wow, this person has it all together. I always see them. They're happy. They have a life that I want to have. So when you're comparing yourself in a world of social media to everybody else, just know that people are going through things. There's something you have that you're not sharing, that you might not go and run to social media to put it out, especially when it comes to relationship struggles. Look at the trophy couple, and guaranteed they go through some things. There's a big thing where they say, if you're married for a long time, there's times that you wanted to split. There's times that things happened, and it's just a matter of you haven't given up. You persevere through relationships. Nobody I know has a absolute perfect textbook relationship. I mean, even in Disney movies, things happen, So that kind of wraps up what we have in terms of the structured portion of the show. I wanted to get into some announcements before we wrap up. Andrew Scholes is coming to Wind Creek July 28th. So tickets are available. This is not sponsored or anything, but Andrew Scholes is a comedian that I've been following for years. He also has a podcast, Brilliant Idiots, that I definitely listen to and have listened to for years every week. It was part of the inspiration for me to get into podcasting, because I thought it would be great to build a group of listeners that can all adapt on a common theme. And, you have no idea what that podcast has helped me get through personally. So this is kind of me paying it forward. I figured, hey, shout out this show. I got my tickets. I know a couple people that did. The 7:00 show sold out in like 10 minutes. So even at the time of me posting it, they may or may not still be available through Ticketmaster. They had the best price I found. So other than that, I've settled on a service for remote guests. So just got to work through the technical stuff, figure out what it would take to produce guest episodes. Audio quality, this is an audio quality, an audio podcast first and foremost. So the YouTube and the video portion of it is secondary. But that being said, we want to make sure that the audio is absolute quality. I know sometimes Zoom calls can get a little muffled or you have technical difficulties. So I'm going to do some test episodes with that before I go and put anything out, but do expect some remote guests from season 3 and beyond, because that's going to open up the world to people who aren't even in my tri-state area. It's going to be able to open up to some of my friends out in the Midwest or, Portland, Oregon. So I'm excited for that. As far as guests, we do have one locked in. We had Heidi Markow of Beginning Over Foundation sharing her story. That one's going to be a banger, so I can't wait to drop that. That's in post-production now, so no drop date, but that's going to be coming soon. There is a drop date for 8-Town Slim. Competition is 3, dropping 6/10. I like what they did there with the drop date, the area code 610, so that's easy to remember. 610, that'll be available on all streaming platforms. That's produced by Phase One, who we had earlier on season 2 as a guest. That's his project that he was talking about dropping. So at least now and maybe the next week, I'll keep on announcing that. Hopefully that'll blow up on 610. That's all I got for announcements. Thank you for rocking with us. If you're a new listener, I hope you consider subscribing. If you've been listening to every episode, you're crazy. I record and I don't listen to every episode. I wasn't even there for every episode. So if you're a power listener and you've listened to every episode, big shout out. Let me know some way. I'll do something special for you. This is I Will Not Lose podcast, where we set out to prove that everything is learned from failure and we must persevere and recognize it as one step closer to success. To support the show, visit shows.acast.com/I Will Not Lose and subscribe on your favorite podcast player. Share the episode link, leave a comment. Your contribution is greatly appreciated. I know I say that every week, but I can't say it enough. Thank you for listening.